I'm making this video for my friend Mark in the UK. Me and him have been struggling with getting our CHP oil feed pumps and our big twin flathead Harley-Davidsons to cooperate. It's always nice to be suffering with someone else. So what I did was I took the cap screw out of this hole here in one of my stock Harley-Davidson feed pump bodies I had laying around, because that screw is the same size, that screw cap is the same size and thread pitch as both of the caps on the CHP pump. This is the one I pulled off the CHP pump. So you can either drill a hole in this one if you want, or use up parts from an old stock one like I did. So I pulled one of these off, flipped it upside down, punched a little divot in it to help the drill bit go in fairly straight, drilled it out, and then tapped it with a 1/16 inch NPT pipe tap. I had to order that from the internet because my local hardware store, they do not have stuff that goes down that small. So I tapped it. I also had to order these barb fittings because, again, the hardware store locally didn't have stuff that small. And then I screwed that in to the cap, screwed the cap into the pump body, and I originally was testing it, as you saw in the last video, with just some black hose, but I got some clear hose just so I could kind of see what's at play myself and make it a little easier to illustrate it. I got this idea from a guy named Dick Lynn. His handle is Frankenstein on the SNS cycle forums. I think I sent you the link to it. And he says, I also had a problem when I went with a gerotor pump, and that the stock return pump could not keep up when I got oil out of the breather. I had added a shutoff valve in the supply line to prevent wet sumping, so that wasn't the issue. This was only on startup, as Woody had noticed. After warming up, it kept up just fine. Well, in my case, it was all the time. So yeah, he then goes on to say, I resolved the issue by tapping the pressure relief oil from the pump and wiring it to the standard return line to the oil tank. I put a piece of clear line temporarily to observe how this worked out. Saw no issues. Blow off was set at 40 psi and oil is warm and pressure settles down to 20. So I got the idea there. Figured I'd try it. And my thoughts as to why oil doesn't just keep pumping up this hose and then eventually just come out the other end like I thought it would, is just adding this piece of hose is done two things as far as I can tell. It's added space to the oiling system that has to be filled with oil, and that has reduced the pressure and the flow to the point where excuse me, almost had to sneeze. Reduced pressure and flow to the point where it no longer pukes out of the breather down there. Now, why doesn't it come out the other end of this hose? The only thing I can think is just by reducing the pressure and flow, it fills up to, I don't know, maybe here or so. It never really goes past that, and then as the thing's running, it tends to just, I guess, it doesn't let it go above that point because it just keeps pulling it back into the motor before it rises above that. That's my theory. So I think that will work, and I think that will work for the long haul. So I'll fire it up and show you kind of what it looks like cold through all the way up through hot idle, and I'll be right back. So that's the first time that I have seen the oil rise up that high. It's usually, from the few times I've tested it, only goes up to about here, and it doesn't go beyond that, and then it usually bleeds back down a little. The only thing I can guess as to why it rose up to about here is this was a cold start, first of the day after sitting for over 24 hours. So I think that this is proof of concept, though, in that obviously this clear line is just for testing. You would need to be actual rubber hose, but proof of concept in that this will work. This just needs to be tied back into the oil tank somehow, and just putting a Y or a T connection in the return line and tying this into it, I think, just like Dick Lynn mentioned on the forum over there, would be one way to solve this problem. So that's probably what I'm gonna do, and then I should be able to finally, however many months after the fact, I don't even know how long I've had these pumps, I should finally be able to use this CHP pump. Now, it's not my style to trash someone. However, in the interest of full disclosure and honesty, anyone who happens across this video, consider yourself forewarned that these pumps often, this feed pump rather, it is not a right out of the box bolt-on solution. Now, this has been a pretty easy fix now that I've tried it, but Carl at CHP, who makes these pumps, his help and general tech support has been less than impressive. Half the time he doesn't even respond to me, and he's on the other side of the world from me here in the States, so about the only option I have really is to email him. About half the time he doesn't even respond to me. So be forewarned, if you were thinking about getting these pumps, that you're gonna have to figure out how to solve some of these problems yourself. And I don't know, because this is the only one I've messed with, but hopefully if anyone else was having this problem, this is the solution right here. Just tap into the pressure regulation circuit and then get a rubber line and tie it back into the tank however you want, and you should be able to enjoy a little extra pressure and flow on your old flathead without dealing with oil puking from the breather like I and other people have. So there you have it.